What is up, guys, and welcome back to my channel. As you may know, I've been not making videos about HLTV fantasy for quite a bit now, but with the new season starting, with me gaining more interest in competitive Counter-Strike, with CS2 coming out soon, and just generally having more time in my life, I suppose, I figured it would be a great time now to get back into HLTV fantasy and creating videos. And what better way to start off than with this announcement coming out today. As soon as I saw this, I was like, yeah, why not? Let's post a video about some of my thoughts. So there's going to be two videos today. First of all, this video where I'm going to go through some of the changes they're making, what I think of them, and so on. Probably not the longest video, this one. And then I will be going to, I guess I'm going to talk about the future of the channel a little bit, maybe as well. And then in the next video, I'm going to go into my lineup for the last Premier Fall groups. It's still a week away. I could make some changes. If I do, I'll post about them on Twitter, but most likely, usually I have just stayed with my initial picks. But we'll see about that. But either way, I'm gonna make two videos today, one right now and two about the last Premier 4 groups. Let's get into this. So still a 10 grand season. It's powered by 22bet. I suppose it's a new betting sponsor. 10,000 split like this. Seems fine. Doesn't really impact what I do here. There's the celebrity version, which is nice. It's gonna create some more hype for the thing. I've seen people post about the celebrities, the CS broadcast talent, kind of posting about how they do in fantasy. So maybe it's gonna help HLTV fantasy grow as well. Lowering the points of best of ones makes a ton of sense. Also, not as impactful, but increasing the points for BO5s. So when it came to HLTV fantasy before this update, the more best of ones there were in an event, the more random it felt. You could get a huge outlier performance from one player, and that would just dictate the entire fantasy event. Whereas now, that is not as likely. So all in all, a great change. I don't see really any problem with this. Yeah. I think that's also probably for them easier to just go like divide it by 2 or multiply it by 125, both regardless of how many maps are actually played. Of course, you could go about it in a way where it was like, okay, based on how many maps are played. So if there's 2 maps, you get a certain amount of points. If there's 3 maps, you get a different amount. But I would say this makes sense to me. Updated roles. So these are some of the bigger changes. So main AWP will now trigger less often for the big or medium points. I think it's still a very usable role for players who are actually main AWPers. It's not going to trigger as often, especially the big bonus. I would say most of the time you're still going to get the medium bonus for main AWPers. But there is still a small chance of that penalty happening as well. But still, I would say main AWP is a decent role to have on your main AWPers. Support. Just yeah, I guess I like this change. I suppose support was always kind of a very safe option. You're now gonna be risking the penalty quite a lot more. But if you have a real support player, I would say that you still rarely will get the penalty, and most likely will get either max points or small points at least. I mean, there's a lot of players who are at like the 20% support percentage. So those players who sometimes have the penalty and sometimes max and usually the small bonus. But if you have a real support player like a Perfecto or an Inters, those are going to be at the higher points. Leader looks a lot worse now. By the way, I could maybe zoom this in a bit. Perhaps this is good. No maps lost in the series leader. So you have to, for the max points, you can't lose any maps. I don't know if I like that. I think it's gonna kind of kill the role. If you lose, you get penalty still. If you win with lost map, you're still you're gonna get some points. Depends on the player. Sometimes there's gonna be players who probably still you would like this to be on, and if it's like a super easy run for a team in a group, perhaps you still go leader, but I think it's way less picked now. Attacker, medium for some reason is nerfed, but I mean attacker was a very rarely used role, and I like that they buff the max points, even though it still probably is not the greatest role. Defender gets nerfed a little, so your small bonus needs more. I think that just makes sense. It's like, I feel like these were always weird values where you're very rarely gonna get penalized, and these are just mostly kind of correcting that. Like you can see that every role pretty much got adjusted in the medium points category, and I think it just makes sense for like defender, multi-fragger. These are all roles you would consider. But yeah, but no real bigger changes to those. Camper is, I guess, easier to get to max points. Camper is also one of these you're gonna rarely get penalized, so this makes sense. Headshot machine, you're gonna need a lot more. So headshot machine as well was one of these roles that was super reliable. Like you would almost always, if you put it on a player who's got like 55-ish headshot percentage, you're sometimes gonna hit the max bonus, usually gonna get the medium, and very rarely gonna get the penalty. So this makes it riskier, which I think makes sense. Entry fragger, just the same as these other ones. Like entry fragger has always been a decent role, so I think this is like okay in terms of change. Stat hunter is actually usable now. I think it's always been kind of the problem with stat hunter is that it's just a combination of attacker and defender, and because stat hunter needed 1.4 and defender 1.35, usually people have higher defensive ratings than attacking ratings, you would always just go defender rather than stat hunter. But now it makes at least some sense to go like stat hunter if you think they have like it's like a star player who have even ratings in attacker and defender, or on the T side and CT side. It could make sense to go stat hunter now. I guess defender just needs more for the max points. It's still the same for the medium bonus. I would maybe even want, I don't know, it's tough to say, but I definitely think stat hunter is more of a consideration now. And then noob also, I think, is more of a consideration. The problem with noob was always, like, if you want to be at the fighting for like the prizes for each event, like I usually want to be like at least having a chance at that, noob is not really the greatest role in most events for that. Usually the best lineup doesn't include a player who has such low ratings. But now that it's slightly buffed in terms of getting the peak bonus, which you're usually going to be wanting to get, it's more of a consideration of like risk reward, and it's like hedging your noob player at least a little more. So it's an option, and I don't think you can go much higher than this, like 0.9, and it's gonna trigger maybe a bit too often. And there's a new role, eco-friendly. It's tough to say how often these trigger. I've never really paid attention to how many SMG or shotgun kills players get. SMGs, I guess, mostly, like more SMGs than shotguns get played. Like 0.07 sounds like an achievable number for people who just play like the IGL maybe. Like it could be better than something like leader on a Carrigan or an Apex. These players who do like Mac 10s and MP9s. So I don't know what the numbers say, but I would say it's potentially good. And Clutch King is no longer a role, so that makes sense. I'm gonna adjust the camera just a little bit. That's not just shooting the top of my head when I look down on my monitor. But yeah, Clutch King removed. I don't really care. That's fine. There's like some ideas on why they've made the decisions to do this. I mean, it's pretty clear, right? These are the roles that haven't been used too much, so they get some buffs. Main, open, leader, roles that usually were kind of auto-includes in almost any lineup. This also, of course, this does actually impact lineup building in a way where not having an AWPer doesn't feel as bad. So you don't feel as bad for not having an AWPer because the role, like almost guaranteed role points, aren't there anymore. This definitely this is a pretty big change. I think it's probably the biggest change alongside leader, whereas these smaller bumps upward make these more in line with other roles. But all in all, I like this quite a lot. I don't know if I have any problems with any of these. I think it makes roles have always been something I like more than boosters because they actually aren't as random and usually they can impact your lineup building a lot more than boosters. But okay, boosters also get an upgrade or update, and all in all they have just made almost all boosters or a lot of boosters more likely to trigger. So flash only needs 4, grenade kill only 1. That's actually pretty big. Saver only 3 lost rounds survived or more. Quad instead of ace, yeah. Carry only 25 kills, not 30, so that's way more achievable. And then Rambo, you also can get it with a shotgun. I mean, I don't know how often that's gonna matter, but it could matter, maybe on some maps. It does kind of, like, if we know a player likes to pick up the shotgun for a certain position on a certain map, let's say some player likes nuke, hut, auto shoddy on top of hut, and we expect teams or a matchup to go to nuke based on veto. Maybe we go Rambo then in that scenario. Of course, there's other places as well where shotguns could be more important, but I think just depending on the map, I think it's a good change. It's gonna make it more reliable, and in all of these make them more reliable, which makes it less random because boosters are one of the more random elements in HLTV fantasy, and I never liked how hard these are to trigger most of the time. So this is a step in the right direction. Also, choke has been removed. Choke was always stupid. It's just worded in a way where it's not even a choke always when it triggers. So like a 14-15 win and it goes to OT and you lose, like that could be a choke, but it's not really a choke. It should be like losing after having a certain amount of a lead by, I don't know, 8 rounds. But I think it's probably hard to code it, possibly. It could be hard to code that. And Rubet was always just 3 points taken away. That's completely fine. Cannon fodder, new booster, 6 lost or 1 round survived or fewer. So 6 or fewer rounds where you have survived. Okay, so it's kind of like this IGL booster, almost like a Carrigan who likes to go in first and get traded. That makes sense. Farmer, 3 SMG kills in a single map. Again, like who likes to use these SMG weapons? IGLs usually, maybe. 3 seems very achievable. Like that's not a super high amount of SMG kills. Yeah, interesting. Let's see how highly that's gonna trigger for players. That's actually kind of interesting to know. I'm feeling 22 double roll points. So you're gonna want to use that on a player who has a role that you expect to get the full points in a round. That's pretty cool. I actually kind of like that, doubling the points. Makes sense to me. It could be a negative 2 points. Good point. Just kind of browsing through this, but I mean, we can see all the relevant information in there. Fantasy notifications are one of the most significant updates to user experience. Receiving notifications about the status of your main team among the things that will, games going live and finishing. I wonder where. I guess they come here, right, with the HLTV notifications. Then new season points. So yeah, this is a pretty major change as well. So this for the whole fall season. I'm guessing upcoming seasons might monitor this as well, or just stay the same depending. But all in all, good change in my opinion. The thresholds always seemed a bit weird here. Why do we need a difference between 3 and 5%? I would say this looks nicer to me. Also, this now encourages going for quote-unquote safer lineups, I would say. Because safer lineups are more often going to get into this threshold of like top 30, top 20, and then you're still going to be scoring the 10 points. I think going quite safe with your lineups, at least early on, and seeing how that goes could be the plan. You get 1 point even for top 80%, okay. Of course, you always want the top 1%, you want the top lineup, but maybe you don't need to make huge risks in your lineups to get there, and in order to play the leaderboard, you can play a bit safer. I would say that probably makes more sense. Yeah, it seems fine. Interface. Fantasy also received an update to the interface. Now the team page will show season points near the messages, making the page easier to read and screenshot. I wonder if there's a button to screenshot. That'd be cool. Season points near the messages. We also made the stats section of Fantasy more useful, as it now displays your top percentage and ordinal placement as well as points. I gotta check that out to appreciate the changes, I suppose, but that's gonna be coming in the next video then. The update also brings the search bar to the season standings, making it easier to find the live team of a user. Oh, that's cool. I like that. There's a problem though, potential problem, where let's say 2 players are super close in points towards the end of the season, at the top of the leaderboard. It's now kind of dumb that you can search for like your biggest rival's team and then just copy that. If let's say you are like some points ahead, if you have pretty much the same team and don't lose out on boosters, you can't really lose. So I think that's a problem. I think it might be, I would say towards the end of the season, they may need to just just not have this this like, what is it, this change, or only have it for like you can search for players who are way down in the rankings, like keeping the top, I don't know, 50 players lineups secure and hidden. But yeah, I hope they have thought of something like that interface, because otherwise, just to explain this further, like let's say I'm the player who's first, and I know there's only one player who can take over my spot in first. I don't want to make a lineup, or at least make a public lineup, until the very last second when the lineups are locked. I would have to kind of just wait out as long as possible, and then just make my lineup super quickly, submit it at the exact point where no one can copy my lineup. But yeah, okay. More to come before starting to work. A lot of user feedback. What time constraints limited, what we could develop. Yes, these are good updates. I wonder what's going to happen if they're thinking of doing other changes as well. But yeah, all in all, I think this is a really good update. Yeah, I don't have much more to say about this. Super excited for the new season. I guess just about the future of the channel. So I'm probably gonna only focus on HLTV Fantasy for now. Only make HLTV. Like I used to make these ego app fantasy videos as well. But I think for the time being, at least to start off, just to get back into the groove of things, I'm only gonna make videos about HLTV Fantasy. And possibly then later on I'm gonna make other CS Fantasy videos as well. I've also been getting into FPL, so Fantasy Premier League, for the upcoming season. So if you would like to see what I think of FPL lineups and what I'm gonna make for FPL, please let me know. I could make a video about my team, at least closer to the Premier League season starting. But yeah, I'll be ending this video here, and I will see you soon in the video for Blast Premier Full Groups. Yeah, thank you for watching, and goodbye.